Hello everyone, and welcome to the final video in this series on Komodo Dragon's openings. And we're looking at a bit of random stuff and some vague stuff that occurred to me whilst playing through it. The first thing, I know you all want to know, what does Komodo Dragon want to do against 1b3? Well, that is very interesting. After a long think, Komodo Dragon wants to play a line that's actually been tested quite a lot at the TCEC. There's a video on this on the Game Changer YouTube site, and I'm pretty convinced that I also did a theoretical article on this in New in Chess magazine as well. So this is one of the sharpest lines. I mean, black tries and occupies the center and then shorts it up with its pieces. White attacks with f4. Obviously, e takes f4 allows bishop g7. And, well, queen h4 check, g3, queen e7, knight f3, f6, knight c3. And in this position, bishop e6, takes, d4, e4, knight e5. And this has been seen in the TCEC during a bonus event, in actual fact. And Stoflace, the amazing Morozevich-like engine, was in the thick of it, really. And it came up with this piece sacrifice, queen g5. And this is the line that Komodo Dragon wants as well. So what's happening here? Knight takes c6. Obviously, b takes c6 allows bishop takes c6. So we go a6, attacking the bishop. If the knight retreats, we'll take the bishop. So bishop a4, and now, amazing idea, just knight f6. And the idea simply is that you are just leaving the knight like that. You've always got possibilities of trapping the bishop with b5, or maybe later with c6 and b5. And of course, at the same time, you're attacking the pawn on e3, and you're just getting ready to castle queenside, come in with knight g4 and put white in a whole load of trouble. So Komodo's line goes knight e5, check, c6, b4, and we're still following a game here actually between Stockfish and Stoflace, and that game continued. Queen takes c3 check here. Stockfish played knight e2, and after knight g4 takes, queen d2 takes, castles. Then Stoflace managed to make a draw with consummate ease. The big problem for white is, well, the king's weak, the bishops are strong. We've got moves like e3 check coming in, and this bishop on a4 is completely out of play. And well, Stoflace made a good job of it. Komodo's analysis goes queen e2, and then queen takes d4, knight c6, takes. Finally get the bishop active, but rook c8 here, rook d1, queen e5, rook takes d5. Just the tactics keep on coming here. Bishop takes d5 check, king g6, bishop e4, king f7, castles, rook takes c3, takes, bishop d5, king g6, rook f6 check, gf, queen g4 check, and there's a draw by perpetual. There we are. That's the Komodo line. But you get the sense, really, that queen g5 is a hell of a move, and well, it's a novelty. There's a 2021 game, Kosinov against Deak. White was a lot lower rated than the 26-25 rated Deak, and yeah, simply won very easily. Queen g5 could be a hell of a shock if you manage to hit a b3 cowboy with that. So definitely worth looking at, and lovely to play the really aggressive line occupying the center when white gives it up. So that's Komodo against 1b3, tremendously interesting. What else do we have? Well, we've got maybe the Budapest, d4, knight f6, c4 and e5. And this is again another TCEC special. It's something quite amazing here. Takes knight g4, and now the engines are looking at playing e3, knight takes e5, and then f4, just driving back this knight from e5. And after knight ec6, we go knight c3, d6, and then Komodo Dragon wants to play just b3. Bishop b2, bishop g7, queen d2, a5, knight e2, castles. Here Komodo plays knight g3. I mean, g3 followed by bishop g2 is also very sensible indeed. You know, and you've got this lovely sort of English structure. You know, with you can occupy d5 with a knight. You're taking all these pawns on f4 and c4. They take away all sorts of squares from the knight. Very nice position from white, and really easy to remember as well. None of this complicated, you know, long theory in the Budapest. Just e3, knight takes c5 and f4, and easy. Yeah, as I said, plenty of games between Leela Zero and Stockfish in these games, and it went very, very well indeed for white in both cases. So that's the Budapest. I mean, another beautiful shock from the engines there. The final thing was I promised I'd look at the Morra, and this is it. I mean, it's one of those really interesting things, you know, that you know, the orthodoxy always says, you know, really what I grew up with was that losing a central pawn is the worst thing that you can possibly do. You know, central pawns are more important than any other pawns. So, you know, the Morra Gambit essentially should be akin to losing the game, because you've given up a central pawn. Black's got a central pawn extra. Okay, you've got a bit of activity, but how good can that be? But in actual fact, you know, Komodo Dragon concludes its analysis with only a tiny disadvantage for white, minus 0.07. You know, so why is this? And you see this again and again in engine games, that actually, you know, sacrificing a central pawn, if you get open lines for the pieces, plenty of mobility, that can actually be enough to almost completely compensate for a sacrificed central pawn. And it really struck a chord with me, because I played a game a long time ago in 1995 against the French grandmaster Manuel Apicella. It was a very important game for me. It was during the Linares Zonal, and I'd made a brilliant start and I was looking to increase it, and my opponent, who I'd beaten a number of times, played something very unexpected. He played the Tarrasch von Hennig Schara Gambit, which was this one. I was surprised that he'd played it, but I was actually very positive about this, because normally in these lines black plays knight c6, knight f6, bishop c5, queen c7, castles queenside, and tries to launch a kingside attack. And I had a lot of analysis on that. I'd done some serious work. But what he actually did was a line that I also knew, but I didn't particularly rate, which was simply to develop quietly. So now just castle kingside, and then just develop a pawn down as if nothing had happened. And I had actually enormous problems in trying to convert this, and actually I didn't succeed at all. And after the game I was very, very upset. You know, just a clear pawn up, how can this possibly be that I didn't just win the game? And but if you look at this is a position then from Komodo Dragon's analysis. Komodo Dragon's ending this line with an evaluation of 0.54, and a position that looks much closer to a draw than to a win. And again, it's this, you know, sacrifice of a pawn, clearing lines in the centre. You know, the engines just sort of say, well, yeah, you know, the activity that you've got, you know, the lack of residual pawn weaknesses, the safe king, and all the mobility that you've got, that's enough to keep the game in balance. And well, you know, try and play this position against one of the engines in a practice game, and well, you'll notice just how difficult it is, you know, even to keep the balance, let alone win. So this is very similar to the Morra Gambit. And yeah, you know, I'm really interested to see this. I mean, a couple of lines I just want to show you. The main line, according to Komodo Dragon, is knight c6, knight f3, d6, bishop c4, a6, castles knight f6, and now bishop f4 played. Quite a subtle move order from black, also keeping the possibility of bishop g4. But bishop f4 is an important move, better than playing queen e2 when bishop g4 is rather irritating. You know, with threatening moves like knight d4, for example. So after bishop f4, black goes back to the old standard, the way that well, we all learned to play when we were young. But here, yeah, you know, Komodo is just playing very sensibly. Pieces are developed, and then just waiting for black to do something, and it's not that easy. So queen b8, knight a4, looking to come into b6. b5 takes, bishop a4, bishop d7, rook c4, takes, rook c1. And well, already the pawn has been recovered. A2 is hanging, but we're also threatening knight d4 into c6 or attacking b5. And, well, after queen b7, bishop d6 takes rook a2, rook dc6, rook a1 takes. Komodo considers that black is slightly better, but, barely nothing in actual fact. So, yeah, just this main line, Komodo Dragon just sees this ending up as equality. Sacrifice of the pawn on move 3 by white, and essentially just a draw if white plays well. But there are a lot of different systems against the Morra, and I was quite intrigued by this one, which had always seemed quite strong to me. So knight c6, knight f3, e6, bishop c4, and knight ge7. And after castles, then a couple of moves. A6 is the old-fashioned idea, stopping knight b5. And here I was quite amazed when I saw that what Komodo Dragon was recommending. Yeah, if you know neural net engines, you might be able to guess. But still, h4, there we are. h4 just against the knight e7 coming to g6. And after b5, bishop e2, bishop coming back to e2, not to b3, by the way. Bishop b7, bishop e3. Yeah, white's just waiting. If knight g6 will go h5 and then keep on chasing the knight. Knight c8 is what Komodo Dragon was expecting, and then just simply a4, b4, knight b1, knight a5, bishop d3, bishop b7, knight d2, castles rook c1, and it's just general compensation for white. Look at black's pieces, the knight on a5, knight on c8, not looking great. Okay, black's got the extra pawn, but if you do play a move like d5, I go e5, and suddenly it looks like a French. And well, it's in the Silicon Road to Chess Improvement. We do a big section on this about how the engines are always willing to give up a pawn on d4 in a French structure, because that gets access to bishop, to a knight, and all sorts of attacking possibilities. So black doesn't have that, so not easy for black to strike back at white's position. And again, you're completely unfazed by losing this pawn. You might have something concrete, or you might just give it up and then use the open h file to attack the black king. So that's quite amazing. But just a little while ago on the internet, knight g6 was being mooted as the strong plan for black here, that you didn't have to fear knight b5. Oops, knight b5. And here again, amazingly enough, Komodo Dragon suggesting h4, just like a pawn sacrifice. Okay, black takes it, and now we go knight b5. And of course, having given a pawn away, chase the black queen away, knight b5 is a lot stronger. I mean, this is amazing. I can tell you, I have looked at this position a number of times, and this plan never occurred to me, not in a million years. And now I see it, I think, why didn't I think of that? But so g3, I mean, of course, there are quite a few complicated things. I mean, there's no immediate threats here, but by playing this move, bishop f4, bishop e3, we've now got the d5 square as well. h5, king h2, just blocking that. f4, amazing play, just keeping on going, even though your own king is exposed. But yeah, I mean, look at this position. Now all of a sudden you feel a lot better about having given up 2 pawns. 2 pawns, did you say? 3 pawns. There we are. Rook c1, bishop d7, queen d2, and the attack keeps on going. I mean, the engine finds that that black is fine in this position, but I know who I'd rather be. I'd much rather be white in this position. Just an amazing idea with h4. But it all comes back to that sense that you've really got to have nowadays, I think, that sacrificing a centre pawn like that for open lines mobility, that's it's the Morra isn't a loss, as I believe, for most of my professional career. Well, probably until about a couple of days ago, until I saw this. This is still, you can do a lot with mobility, and well, I think that's one of the things that engines have revolutionized in our game. Really showing how much you can achieve like that. So there we are. That was Komodo Dragon. I hope that was interesting. I mean, what do I use this for? Why did I think this was interesting work? I mean, I'm just trying to recalibrate myself at the moment to try and remove from my mind all the things I learned as a kid, many of them which have turned out to be wrong, and just try and get a better sense of what is good, what is bad, and you don't have to take this as gospel truth. These aren't the only lines that that you can play. There are many other lines that are promising, that are interesting. But some of these things that the engine is showing, like the fact that d4, c4, the main lines are really, in many ways against a well-prepared opponent, not offering very much. To be honest, this is what I felt even when I was professional, and it's certainly what I felt after spending a lot of time preparing when I came back into chess. And the fact that Komodo says, well, I think the London system is more promising, keeps more tension, keeps more in the game. Yeah, that's a very interesting conclusion, to be honest. And a lot of things like, for example, the modern Benonis that we looked at, where Komodo Dragon saying, well, in the knight c3 line, this flick knife variation, too dangerous, you've got to go for something else. Stuff like this that they make you rethink the stuff you've accepted about opening theory as a child, and also stuff that you sort of accepted because all the other people, everyone else sort of thought that way. Really makes you rethink your openings and recalibrate yourself. And I think that's a very important thing to do from time to time. So that's how I'm using it, and I suggest that would be useful for absolutely anyone. Certainly, you see that a lot of these sidelines are suddenly proving to be very interesting. For example, the one that also struck me was d4, knight f6. Knight f3, g6, c4, bishop g7, e3. Considered it rather minor, but Komodo Dragon is saying this is better than knight c3. Avoid the Grunfeld. That's what you've got to do in order to keep chances in the position. It's fascinating. It's really a lot of new insights. I hope that was enjoyable. I mean, I'm actually planning to do the same with a number of different engines. So I hope that it was interesting. Certainly. I learned an awful lot by doing it, so hoping that you do too. And otherwise, keep on watching these videos. We've got Fischer Random chess happening at the TCEC, and then double Fischer Random as well. So I'm sure we'll be looking at a few of those games as well, and obviously carrying on with this series with different engines. But if you like this video or this series, well, why not give a like, subscribe to the channel, take a look at my new book, The Silicon Road to Chess Improvement, which is full of stuff like this. And otherwise, thanks very much for watching this series, and hope to see you at the next one. Thanks for watching.